On the cold morning of January 1889, in the streets of Turin, a philosopher broke. You stand there, among the cobblestones slick with winter frost, watching a frail figure collapse onto the neck of a beaten horse. His body shakes, not from the cold, but from something deeper, the weight of empathy that had finally shattered him. This is Friedrich Nietzsche, the prophet of strength, the herald of the will to power, brought to his knees by pity. They say he whispered to the animal as he clung to it, tears running down his face. A man who declared, "Pity is the practice of nihilism," now consumed by the very force he had warned against. And yet, across time, another mind would wrestle with a different kind of collapse. Carl Gustav Jung, haunted by visions that blurred the line between madness and revelation. In his secret journals, the Red Book, he confessed, "I had to let myself plummet into the depths. I had to let myself become the victim of my own compassion." Two men, two visions, both touched by the dangerous fire of empathy. But what is empathy? A virtue that heals, or a shadow that consumes? This is not a story of abstract theories. It is a story of survival, of fire and shadow, of what happens when the heart feels too much. Here, in Legend's Legacy, we walk through these haunted corridors of history, not to worship heroes, but to confront their demons, to see where their struggles reflect your own. And I ask you, do you believe empathy makes you stronger or weaker? Whose voice do you follow in the silence of your own heart, Jung or Nietzsche? Share your thoughts below. And if you want more journeys into the minds of those who shaped our world, subscribe and walk with us into the shadows of history. The fire of Nietzsche's mind was not gentle, it was volcanic, searing, merciless. He once declared, "What is good? All that heightens the feeling of power, the will to power, power itself in man. What is bad? All that proceeds from weakness." You walk beside him in the flickering lamplight of 19th century Europe. The streets reek of decay, morality crumbling under the weight of its own hypocrisies, religions losing their grip, nations stumbling in search of purpose. Nietzsche stares at this collapsing order with the sharp eyes of a surgeon, cutting open its illusions. He does not see empathy as salvation. To him, it is poison. Pity, he says, drags the strong down to the level of the weak, infecting vitality with disease. Pity is the practice of nihilism, he warned, for it does not lift the suffering, it multiplies it. And yet, the paradox burns. This man who thundered against compassion was undone by a single act of it, the horse in Turin. His heart, suppressed for so long beneath the armor of philosophy, erupted in a flood of feeling. The will to power met its breaking point. Nietzsche's fire is seductive, dangerous, intoxicating. It calls to you in moments of your own exhaustion, whispering, "Why carry the burdens of others? Why bleed for those who would not bleed for you?" But fire consumes as much as it illuminates. Nietzsche's flame gave us courage to question, to rise above mediocrity, but it also burned him from within, leaving his final years in silence and madness. And so you are left with the question, was Nietzsche right, that empathy is a disease of the weak? Or was his collapse the proof that no man can ever escape the pull of compassion? You close your eyes, and the world blurs. The familiar dissolves, and you fall into the abyss where Carl Gustav Jung once wandered. It was 1913. The world outside trembled on the edge of war, but Jung's war was inward. 4 nights on end, visions tore through his mind, rivers of blood, drowned cities, gods rising from the unconscious. He feared madness. He feared he would never return. Yet he did not run. He wrote, "I had to let myself plummet into the depths." This descent gave birth to the Red Book, a secret journal of his dialogue with the soul. Within those crimson pages, Jung confronted the figures of his inner world, the wise old man, the trickster, the devil, the child. And among them, his shadow, the part of himself he wished to deny, yet could never escape. Empathy, too, appeared in those depths, but not as a shining virtue. Jung discovered its shadow side, the danger of being swallowed by the pain of others. To feel too deeply is to risk losing yourself. To carry every wound is to invite your own destruction. Jung whispers across time, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. That includes the darkness, the selfishness, the rage. For without facing the shadow, the empath drowns, consumed by a flood of suffering that was never theirs to carry. In his visions, Jung learned that compassion without boundaries is not love, it is annihilation. To truly help others, the empath must first walk through the fire of their own shadow, claiming strength as well as softness. So, ask yourself, have you faced your own shadow? Or are you still carrying wounds that do not belong to you? The air tightens when Nietzsche and Jung meet, one forged in fire, the other tempered in shadow. Their voices do not blend, they clash like steel. Nietzsche thunders, compassion is weakness. It drags the strong into the abyss of the broken. He warns you that by carrying another's pain, you lose the power to create, to transcend, to rise beyond the herd. His philosophy is a call to harden, to burn away pity like dry wood, and to stand unshaken. But Jung responds, not with thunder, but with silence, the silence of a man who has stared too long into his own abyss. He does not reject empathy, he warns of its cost. Empathy without shadow is not strength, it is martyrdom. Jung insists, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The empath, to Jung, risks becoming a vessel for other people's wounds, mistaking self-erasure for love. To Nietzsche, the empath is already lost, a creature chained by weakness. But here lies the paradox. Nietzsche's collapse proved that even the strongest mind can be undone by compassion, while Jung's descent showed that survival depends not on fleeing empathy, but on mastering its shadow. So where do you stand? Between fire and shadow, between the will to power and the surrender to feeling. You walk this path too. Every time you silence your own needs for others. Every time you burn out from carrying a burden not yours. Every time you wonder, does my empathy make me noble, or does it hollow me out? This is the battlefield of your soul, where Nietzsche and Jung still argue, and where your own answer must be forged. Centuries pass, yet their voices still echo, Nietzsche with his fire, Jung with his shadows. Their struggle was not just theirs. It is yours. It is every empath's battle in a world that bleeds endlessly. Nietzsche reminds you of the danger of drowning in pity, of letting your strength decay under the weight of suffering that was never yours to bear. He shouts across time, do not confuse self-sacrifice with greatness. The world honors those who create, not those who collapse. But Jung whispers a different truth. He shows you that empathy is not weakness, unless it is unconscious, unless you let it consume you without boundaries. He teaches that only when you embrace your shadow, when you confront the parts of yourself you fear, does empathy transform from poison into power. And now, look around you. In the age of endless noise, where everyone's pain pours through screens into your hands, the danger is greater than ever. The empath risks becoming a ghost, fading under the weight of a million unseen sorrows. Yet the fire of Nietzsche, unchecked, risks turning you into stone, unmoved, untouchable, incapable of love. So the question lingers, which path do you walk? Do you follow Nietzsche's fire, burning away pity to guard your strength? Or Jung's descent, where shadow and empathy meet to forge something deeper? Here, in Legend's Legacy, we do not hand you answers. We hand you mirrors, reflections of the minds who walked before you, so that you might find your own path in their shadows. Whose ideology speaks to you more, Jung's or Nietzsche's? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your perspective is part of this legacy. And if these journeys stir something inside you, subscribe and continue with us, into the fire, into the shadow, into the stories that shaped humanity. The legacy is not theirs alone. It is yours to carry forward.